cost. And I think it needs to be explored by the entire town, not just the Board of Education, because the town does use it through Parks and Rec.
I agree.
My second concern is that I think that this is very precedent-setting in that we have money that was budgeted for specific purposes and the budget was frozen and then those purchases didn't happen. And now we want to use the money for something else. And I think that this sets a very dangerous precedent when the budget is frequently frozen early in the year. Items that were requested are not able to be purchased because the budget is frozen. And then it comes to the end of the year and now the money to be spent for something else. And I think there's a reason that local businesses the week before school starts or 2 weeks before school start that offer a discount for teachers for buying school supplies. Because the assumption is that they're not going to get the money they need, and therefore the teachers will go out and buy the materials and buy the supplies. And we have here on the table, after people being told to prepare a bare bones budget and just get what they're needed, and employees doing their part to help out, and then to have over $500,000 that is now to be spent for something else. And ethically, I have a problem with that.
And I can't disagree with you, Roseanne. I mean, to have to freeze a budget is never something that we want to do or should have to do if we're, operating in an efficient manner. But, when the governor has a holdback and we're told, come up with $550,000, where's it going to come from? So that's a lot of money. So hence, you have to freeze. And there's also times of special education costs that we have to continue to monitor, outplacements, students that might come into district that are medically fragile, that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's a lot of variables, but I'm glad that legislation went through that the governor can no longer do any more holdbacks, so that helps us. We have not frozen our budget for this year. We don't plan on freezing our budget for this current year because you're absolutely right. It puts the impact on our teachers, and they end up having to go out and buy supplies themselves, and that's exactly what happened this past year.
And so then when the money is left, shouldn't it then fund the items that had been requested and approved by the town to purchase those items as opposed to then spending the money on something else? And that's just a philosophical question.
Yeah.
And that's just my problem, and I'm not going to be able to vote for this.
Okay. Other comments? Concerns?
I'll just... Jeff, I think you stated that there was $4,000 raised initially.
That's what's in one of the revenue accounts that's specific to the turf field, correct? Yes.
Would you expect that to go into the CNRE account, or does it stay separate?
We can add it in, absolutely, and close out that revenue
and
account.
whatever future funds either raised by fundraising or not just budgetary-wise, if the field needs to be replaced. We all know that's going to happen. And this is a start, and I think that it's important to have a fund so that the town and the Board of Ed doesn't have to face a $700,000 cost in 1 year all at one time. But I think whatever other money going forward is specifically raised through the use of the field or fundraising for the field replacement, that it also gets contributed to this fund going forward.
And I agree, Paul. Anything that we can contribute in addition to, I think we should. And we should make a concerted effort, to do so.
And to Roseanne's point, not at the expense of other programs, but
No.
things that are specifically identified for this task that bring in revenue, put aside and not used for budget shortfalls. Or I guess you can always make a decision if you have a bad budget shortfall for whatever reason, that you have to take care of something today, buy something tomorrow. But
Yeah. At least we're dedicating money to this account now, so it can't be touched. And there's also the concern that 8 years down the road, we're going to be looking at probably or possibly some new faces on the board and the Board of Finance. We want to make sure that those monies aren't touched for other things too. We want them dedicated to the field, and that's what they're there for, to help offset costs.
Other comments?
So I'll just add, I guess I'm okay with this. Obviously, this 25,000 isn't needed for other items at this point. So I mean,
Yeah.
we're saving it, so we're not just spending it to spend it.
No, we didn't want to just go spend to spend.
You know, you see a lot of budgets at the end of the year, they go rush to spend the money.
And
before
that's
spend.
not
So
what-
here,
yeah,
here we're
exactly.
saving it for an item we know we're gonna need. I understand Roseanne's points, but at least we're saving
Yeah.
the money and not spending it. So I'm okay with it.
I also think, Jeff, you've heard the flavor of a few of the comments here. Maybe it's a good thing for, to talk to some of the booster clubs, because just about every sport that utilizes that field has them. And maybe each one could, you look at the football boosters, they have a golf tournament that raises a lot of money, but they buy a lot of equipment for that. I mean, you look
They
at
do.
helmets, all the stuff that the school doesn't have to buy because it's offset by that, but, maybe have a meeting with them to sit down and talk about, okay, a goal each year to come up with. I'm not talking $5,000, but if each one could come up with a certain amount, but depending upon the sport, you wouldn't expect, even to come up the same, but, then you can start talking about, these are our goals over the next few years. Because I think part of it is, the field's going to be you have it for 14 years, so the first couple of years, you're probably not thinking about it, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
So, anyway,
That's a good idea.
okay.
I don't know. I think it's an item that, it's a cost of doing business. We buy a fire truck and we know 20 years from now we're gonna need another fire truck. We don't ask the fire guys to start putting money away to buy the next one. It's a capital item, just like this is a capital item. We had some people on different committees and some are present, but had some grand ideas that we might be able to get a lot of advertising, and we might be able to get some money for the use of the field, et cetera, that would offset some of the cost of replacement or all of it. It's proven to be unrealistic. In hindsight, we're looking at a Board of Education, not a marketing department. And frankly, I think the places that, if they did have someone in marketing or looking for advertising dollars, we tap our small businesses enough in this town. They are very generous to every organization that knocks on their door. We're all at those events. We see the gift cards. We see the baskets. For them to be coughing up $1,000 a year for a banner on the football field, it's asking for a lot. I mean, they're also already get their very expensive banner down at the Little League field.
Well, that,
Right.
So I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad we're doing this. I know it at least goes somewhere to do something, because the Board of Finance has been beating you up on this too harshly and for too long. I think your business is education. I think the business of the town is to provide the facilities that you need and that we need to perform the town functions and your functions. I don't even think we should be getting into this, but at least we got this. I'll support it. But frankly, I still think there should be discussion whether you have any responsibility of putting money in your budget to be saving up for the next turf field, while we don't do that for fire trucks that cost just as much, or we don't do that for other items. We do it for roofs, but there's plenty of items that we bond for. Garbage trucks. We don't ask Joe to put money aside every year to replace the $700,000 garbage truck that we have to replace every other year.
I think there's a difference between a need and a want.
I would argue that the field has become a need. If you notice the number of students, and if you're going to say that athletic development and participation in sports is equally, or not as equally, but is important to the development of an education, I would disagree.
And independent of the need.
No, I don't want that to be misinterpreted. I was responding to Mr. Nickerson saying that don't believe that comparing a fire truck to a turf field is an equal comparison. It's just
The issue is, first and foremost, is the safety. When the field needs to be replaced, it needs to be replaced. Second of all, if we were to abandon the turf field, we'd have a cost of creating a conventional grass field. I don't know what that would be, but this is here today, and it's not going away tomorrow. Just like the roof on the school building's not going away tomorrow, and sometime they're gonna have to get fixed. So it's here, and planning for that is the right step to take. in
And
my
hopefully we've got
opinion.
another 10 years, before we have to deal with it too, which is, it's not like it's 2 years from now or 3 years from now. It's, it should be a good solid 10 years.
Well, thanks for putting something together. Can I call the motion?
Sure.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Any abstain? Jeff, thank you, and Mariana, thank you.
Thank you.
All that hard work you do down there and keep it up. How's it, it's not on our agenda, but you can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. How's the school projects going?
I'll give you a double thumbs up.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
All right,
That's right here.
great, good stuff.
Yep.
The next is a special appropriation of the health insurance. Anna, could you guide us through this? Maybe you have to come up to the podium.
Can we put a motion on the floor first?
Well, I think she can make the presentation of what we're talking about
Okay.
and make the motion. Let's at least find out what this is.
So subsequent to getting to the end of the budget process, when doing an analysis of our health insurance, we ended up having to take a larger than originally projected renewal. And at the same time, the state came out with what its final numbers were. So at the time that the Board of Finance was charged with setting the mill rate, rather than increasing the education cost sharing revenue at that time and decreasing the taxes, we discussed at a later date increasing the education cost sharing revenues, as we would also have to increase the budgets for both the town and the Board of Education relative to the increased cost in the health insurance. So that is.
So very simply, what we're trying to do is approve a special appropriation from the final ECS grants and put into different accounts.
Correct. We're
Correct.
increasing the revenue account, the ECS revenue account, by the additional grant funds that we were entitled to receive for this year. And we're also increasing the town's health insurance account and the Board of Education's health insurance
Right.
account accordingly.
Okay. Questions for Mrs. Johnson? Then we can put a motion on the table and we can.
I'll move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $597,544 from the final ECS grant as follows. $597,544 to revenue account 01-02-200-201 ECS and budget accounts $203,503 to account 01-01-114-100-127 health insurance, and $394,544 to 01-94-999-000-001 Board of Education, forward to the Board of Finance for approval, and a town meeting is required.
Second.
Any further comments, questions, concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Good.
Slow-
Well, you gotta be
slow
quick,
the
you're
gun
going
here.
fast here.
Just, the second account for Board of Education, is that the health account? Because it doesn't say health like it says for the town. Or is it going to a general fund in the Board of Education?
So that's the operating account that's in the town's overall budget relative to the Board of Education. And then in their own budget, they'll allocate it to the correct health insurance account.
Thank you.
Before we voted, leave the topic, a shortfall in the amount of $102,000. Am I not picking up where that shortfall is going to come from?
At this point in time, we're going to look at whether or not we can try to absorb the difference within our operating budget. So this may be an item that we would come before the boards again later in the fiscal year.
Thank you. Thank you. Just for the record, I will vote on this matter. I am not a recipient of either the town or the Board of Education health policies funds.
And for the record, I am, but this is, wouldn't affect me personally, so I can vote on this as well. Any further comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you. Mr. Bagaz here, and we'll fill in the blanks. We're in need to replace one of those hand-me-down cars that the building official uses. He's out there quite a bit. We have many permits out there, and he's very active, as well as his assistant. We didn't have it in our capital plan. We were going to put it into next year's capital plan. We had a budget plan this year, as you know, that was lean as possible. But we've just received extensive building permit fees from the proposed Costco. That money's hit the building, as well as several other fees for projects in town. So we are already trending well above our anticipated revenue in the building department. And we thought, well, given all the activity, this might be a good time to spend that money immediately on a Ford Escape. And Joe, is there anything we should add to that explanation?
Well, the biggest thing is why wasn't it budgeted would probably be that whether this board and we'll be going to the Board of Finance. The existing Jeep Liberty that actually, if anyone recalls, about 3-4 years ago, we bought an engine, another car for that to plop it in there. That engine has since failed. This all happened in the springtime after the budget cycle. We got the existing building official at the time, Joe Smith, a Crown Vic, another hand-me-down car. That's the one that's being used right now. It's a rear-wheel drive. We got a Costco project coming up. We have a school project. They're getting thumbs up. If the building official isn't coming, they're not getting thumbs up. You can't be having the building official drive around in a rear-wheel drive Crown Vic in the middle of winter, trying to make sure he goes from here, there, and everywhere. So this opportunity came up. So it would have been budgeted next year, but if we put it in next year's cycle, we're 11 months out from getting a new vehicle. Then I'm sitting at a meeting with Costco, and they're talking about a $210,000 building permit fee, and I passed a note to the first selectman, well, why don't we get the building official's car, because it's not good. So that's where we are. And just another thing, there's 2 quotes here. In compliance, the Columbia Ford is a state bid, which is in compliance with the draft purchasing policy. However, there's 2 bids here, because there is a Ford dealer in the town of East Lyme, so we went to them as a courtesy to see if they would match it. Their price was higher for 2018 than Columbia Ford's was for 2019. So we did try to reach out, but typically we would, we would have gone full bid, but this is the state bid, and it's under 25,000. So in this case, we were able to comply with that, the document. As far as that's why there's only 2 bids and not 3.
Correct. But the state
It's a state
covers
bid.
that, right?
The state,
So, yeah.
it says the state contract
Right.
number is on the Columbia bid.
I asked Joe just to reach out to the local. And that's no knock against the local. They couldn't meet the state bid. They have special purchasing power when they're buying so many vehicles for the state, hundreds. So that's why they have a lower price than someone just selling one off the lot. So we still have a great local Ford dealer that we should all frequent. So any questions for Joe?
Just a couple questions. It's 4-wheel drive, right? It looks like it.
Yeah,
So I
it
think
says right in the
that's
spec there.
necessary.
Yeah,
for-
it's
for this
4-wheel
job.
drive. And
Yeah.
the Escape is the car we're trying to move to as far as the new pool cars. A lot of towns are going on, they get good gas mileage, it's a good
Right.
car, it's not a very expensive. So that's why Escape is
Yep.
what. So.
And second, we're paying cash for this, right? We're not leasing, financing.
That was what I'm told, I'm not paying cash for it, but yeah.
So I'm seeing pretty high
Yeah.
interest rates on the other side.
Yeah, we're
paying
looking at
outright,
paying,
right?
we're paying it outright,
Good, okay,
it's my
thank you.
understanding.
Do you want a motion on the floor? Or do you want
Well, if you had any
discussion?
questions for Joe, I think that would be
How long
appropriate.
have we been providing a vehicle from the pool for building official?
I can only date back, I've been here 5 years and we've been doing it all 5 years.
Okay, from a pool that everyone shares?
Well, the building
vehicles?
yes and no. Yes, people share, but no, certain departments need their vehicle all the time. So it'd be chaos if the building official has scheduled appointments at 9, 11, and 1, and there's no vehicle out there, then we wouldn't be going to inspection. So the building official really has a dedicated vehicle.
And there's two building officials, Joe, right? So they share one vehicle.
Yes, yes. And,
Right.
yeah, because I want to say there's 1.5.
There's one and a half.
There's
There's
half,
one
so
and
the
a half, so-
halftime person,
Yeah.
but they don't
George-
typically like to use their own vehicles.
No, we don't
But
want
if
them
you-
to.
but
It
if you
costs us
have-
more money.
Yeah, but if you have two of them there doing inspections,
Right.
one has to be in the town vehicle.
Right, so
But
we-
the Crown Vic is, again, a hand-me-down old police car that we're trying to get these old hand-me-downs that end up the engine's breaking, then we have to pay
It costs us
$5,000,
more
$6,000.
money.
It costs us more than
Right.
what it's worth.
Well, the reason for my question is, and I've brought this up before, that it has been past practice that it is more economical to pay the mileage and reimburse for an individual's use of their personal vehicle. And if we're going to continue to do this sort of thing, then I think that we should update our policy and change the policy. So my question is, do we still have town employees that are using their own vehicles and getting reimbursed for mileage and car usage?
Not that I'm aware of. It's a very infrequent thing for people to get mileage because they're typically in town vehicles. You show up, it's more professional, you show up in a town vehicle, especially the building official that's in a vehicle that says Town of East Lyme, than showing up in your truck and saying, "Hi, I'm the town guy."
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that if this is no longer the policy, then we need to,
Okay.
the board needs to be aware of this
Okay.
and decide that this is no longer the policy.
So practice is that people are using town vehicles. We went through this with getting a Subaru, one of those asset
remember.
fortunate, and that's been a godsend for the assessor's office, so they don't, because they used to, and it gets back to your question, they would come down to me and say, we need a vehicle, and I'm like, well, here's the keys, have one of ours, and so that, and then we're like juggling, okay, who has a car? So we tried as best, they were pool cars, but now the assessor's office uses that Subaru.
Well, just so long as the board is aware that that is no longer, people are no longer doing this, and for whatever reason, that this is no longer the policy.
That's, yeah,
So
the
zoning-
practice is to be in town vehicles.
Zoning and planning use town vehicles now?
They are an exception. I don't know what they do, to tell you the truth. I think Mr. Mulholland uses his own vehicle,
Yeah, I don't think
and
they have
and
access
Mr.
to a
Geisel
vehicle.
does. They sometimes ask, if they
They-
go out of town, they ask for a vehicle, and we
They do.
give them one.
Yeah, they grab a car sometimes if there's gonna be a lot of miles.
I don't know what everyone in the town hall does, but from the people I know, and those are the two that I'm aware of that you just brought up,
Yeah.
that are using their own vehicles. What they're doing, I'm not sure where they're going.
Because I think sometimes zoning and planning could use a four-wheel drive vehicle because they got to go out to sites. So it'd be nice if this was available once in a while if they needed it to get to a site that's not
Correct.
fully developed.
And they would actually be better in a Crown Vic that's got rear-wheel drive, because it's not as much of an issue. They're not doing a lot of those things in the winter. But as far as what we hear today, is the building official really needs to get something that, they go all year round, in and out, so they really need to get to sites. They're in construction sites where it's dirt, some of that. It's not, the Crown Vic's not a good vehicle to be driving on construction sites.
Well, I just think that for liability purposes and for equality of positions, I think that our policy should be very clear and that we're behind it.
Terrific. I guess we're behind it when we appropriate money for a vehicle too. And I know it's tough to keep track. Listen, I understand.
You know,
Yeah.
do we, with the rationale that was given here, do we want these other people to be driving their own vehicles and perhaps not have a sticker on the sign that says, I'm the director of planning, or a magnetic sign, or something on the
We
vehicle
could.
to identify them?
I'll speak to them. I'm not. I know they do use sometimes. They go into the pool and use a car.
If they go out of town, they
Yeah.
definitely come down and we give them keys. There's keys
Because we
all
don't have
hanging.
budget. We don't have. I don't have the gas money for them.
Okay,
So they got to grab a car, and we make compromises downtown, downstairs. For the record, just to kind of get in there, I use my own vehicle. I don't have a town-provided vehicle. And I do put on miles on. We're up in Hartford during the legislative sessions. I'm up in Norwich twice a week at CCM and cost meetings and COG meetings. So I'm out and about and use my own vehicle.
And you have an account for that,
And that's part of the First Selectmen's account that you approve.
correct?
So, any questions for Joe about this particular vehicle, this Ford Escape for the building official department? Okay, we could probably take a motion. Thank you, John.
Move to approve a special appropriation for the purchase of a 2019 Ford Escape from Columbia Ford in the amount of $22,806 from a budget account to be established titled Vehicle, Building Official, and revenue account 01-05-500-501, building permits, and forward to the Board of Finance for approval. Vehicles for the building official and purchase is contingent on the town receiving the Costco building permit fees in October of 2018, and a town meeting is required.
Second.
Let me, for the record, say that the check is in.
The check is
Not in the mail, but in the building.
In the building.
Probably at the bank now. It hasn't necessarily cleared the 5 days. But no, we have received that. So when we wrote this up back September 24th, we hadn't received it knowing it was promised. It is in the building. This is a done deal with the Costco building permit fees. We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Terrific. Meeting call?
Move the following call. Town of East Lyme, notice of special town meeting. Notice is hereby given of a special town meeting of the Town of East Lyme to be held on Wednesday, October 17, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the East Lyme Town Hall Upper Meeting Room for the following purposes. 1, to approve a special appropriation to CNRE Fund 32 with remaining funds available from the Board of Education 2017-18 general fund budget in the amount of $25,000 and establish an account titled East Lyme High School turf field replacement. 2, to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $597,544 from the final ECS grant as follows. $597,544 to revenue account 01-02-200-201 ECS and budget accounts $203,503 to account 01-01-114-100-127 health insurance and $394,544 to 01-94-999-000-001 Board of Education. 3, to approve a special appropriation for the purchase of a 2019 Ford Escape from Columbia Ford in the amount of $22,806 from a budget account to be established titled Vehicle, Building Official, and revenue account 01-05-500-501, building permits. Vehicle is for the building official and building official, and we'll just leave it right there because we've got everything else. I'll cut off that, and purchase is contingent upon, because we've got that.
Yeah.
Official. 4, to transact any other business proper to come before the meeting dated at East Lyme, Connecticut, this 3rd day of October 2018 by the East Lyme Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Been seconded. Any further comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Ex officio reports, Mr. Salerno, you want to start us off?
Sure, I had 3, I'll be kind of brief. Library met, there was some talk about some of the carpets. Carpets are a big expense in that place, and they're
Okay.
starting to show their age. I think they're original. So
Dear.
we're gonna try to make sure that's put into the capital plan. But it's not a small item, because it's a lot of carpets. The planning met last night, and they were talking about the application of Green Valley. The public hearing's still open. They heard from the applicant, and they heard some public. It's been continued to a special meeting in 2 weeks, where they expect to close the public hearing. So that's moving forward. Building commission, things are looking good in general, especially Nyack Center and Flanders are in really good shape right now. I got to tour Nyack Center, and I could say after touring it and viewing some of the newer rooms and viewing some of the older rooms, this commission in this town made a good decision renovating these, and it's going to be pretty much like new in these buildings. So some of the HVAC is going to be able to be put on for this coming spring for some of these rooms. So that's looking good. The only outlier, I guess, is Lily B. Haynes has a lot more problems that came up that were unanticipated. Particularly, a lot of the plumbing is in the concrete and the floor, so they're having problems with